Part 39 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. In this part, we're going to go over Alberto Daniel Drizz's 2018 deposition. Alberto's deposition began on March 6, 2018. He showed up alone, saying that he was representing himself because, remember, they're broke and indigent, so they can't pay the victims. So the deposition starts off, and he refuses to answer any questions from any attorneys present. And he said that he started making phone calls the night before to try to find legal representation, but he couldn't find it. So the deposition ends there and is continued 2 months later. And before I get into his deposition, I'd like to remind everybody that this deposition occurred about 8 months after the big police raid, the Beverly Hills Police Department raiding his home and finding a loaded, stolen, chambered pew-pew and illegal white powder with rolled up dollar bills next to it, among other substances in the house. So I can't find it in my notes, but this is an attorney named Sepper Umrani. He goes by Sep though. And he has been representing Alberto Drizz in his other legal stuff that's been more recent. And I'm pretty sure this is the attorney that ended up showing up with him at the second part of his deposition where he finally started to answer questions. So the deposition starts off with the attorneys asking, Alberto, have you ever been deposed before? And he says, yes, about 1.5 years ago. So that would be about somewhere in 2016. And he says it was just a business matter, contract dispute. I feel like it might have been that whole lawsuit that he lost that was schmexual battery of an underage girl from Blaze Pizza, but I don't know, we can check. Alberto was born in Argentina and moved to the United States when he was 16, where he began going to Beverly Hills High School. At the time of the deposition, he said that he had a 21-year-old daughter who would be Annabella Nicole Drizz. So she was 21, in 2018, which means she was about 18 at the time of the assaults, the incident that happened. And he said that Annabella lives in Manhattan Beach. So when the Drizzes were all charged with GBI felonies, the contracts at Blaze Pizza say you can't be an owner here anymore, so you have to sell them, give them back, whatever. And when he was asked, were you compensated for giving back your shares to Peter Corral? His attorney told him to not answer that. Next, Alberto was asked, have you found a job since 2016? His attorney stepped in and said, don't answer that either. An interesting thing, Alberto said that even before Blaze Pizza and that whole $1 million business, he said he had prior businesses in textiles with Peter Corral, but he wouldn't go into detail what textiles means. Peter Corral was the owner, you can Google him, he was the owner of 7 for All Mankind jeans, which he sold for around $775 million. So I'd really like to know if Alberto was part of that. Next he was asked, do you and Mr. Corral still speak? He answered, I will not answer that question. Alberto then said that he's seen Peter Corral about 5+ times since the assault, less than 10. So side note, I'm not giving every detail from the depositions because there's some stuff that isn't worth putting up here, and there's other stuff that I'm going to use down the line for other reasons, as you'll find out later. So another thing that Alberto says is that he has never used the illegal white powder. That was found in his bedroom 8 months prior by the Beverly Hills Police Department. He then says that the incident at the Nice Guy was the first physical altercation he's ever had, despite his nephew Sean Drizz saying under oath in his deposition, yeah, I saw my dad and uncle fight and physically injure each other in front of me when I was a kid. Then Alberto talks about that he used to play soccer in high school and football, and he was even a soccer coach, which makes me wonder if the dent from the shoe that was in my jaw for like months afterwards, if that was from him. I don't know if it was, but it was a pretty deep dent. So the night of the incident, before the Nice Guy, they were all having dinner, a private dinner in the private room at a high-end restaurant called Ago, which was like walking distance from the Nice Guy. And this man is Jimmy Esbag, and he is very, very, very close friends with Alberto Drizz. Jimmy's the one that booked the room, and he's the one that paid the entire Ago bill. This is Jimmy's private jet that I found all over the internet with his initials, J.E. Group. Okay, so the rest of this video might make your brain hurt, and I apologize in advance. The next quote from Alberto is, I don't drink. The next quote after that is, I won't drink if I'm driving. And the quote after that is, I drink red wine. So next, Alberto says that his daughter, Annabella Nicole Drizz, came with him, like got in the car and went with him to the nice guy from Ago. But here's the thing. At the time, she was 18 years old, and you're not allowed inside the nice guy at 18. You have to be 21 and over. So then he backtracks, and he says, oh, she never went inside. Next, Alberto says that his date left the nice guy before the fight happened, and he won't name her name. And then he leaves to speak with his attorneys, and there's an 11-minute break. So the break with his attorney ends, and he comes back, and now he decides, okay, her name is Eileen. That was her name, but he can't remember her last name. It's okay, I did a little digging. I found out her name. It's Eileen Riviera. She's the one in the green dress. By the way, according to the defendants, this entire thing began because Eileen couldn't find her valet ticket. And they say, you know, that the valet guy, the old man, started berating her about it, and then TMZ started berating them and everything. So this all began technically because of her. She was never subpoenaed. She never gave a police statement. She just kind of disappeared. Side note, Alberto was driving a Jaguar XJ, a broke guy. Just post this too because this is also Eileen Riviera with the blue Birkin and her friend with the matching white Birkin bag. If any fashionistas are out there, I'd love to know how much this blue purse is worth. Thanks. So next, Alberto Driz, the self-proclaimed non-drinker, says that he could have ordered wine, beer, or a small scotch that night, and that he was in the nice guy for no more than 30 minutes, maybe an hour. It's not true. He also claimed under oath that they left before 1 a.m., which is not true because the entire incident happened around 1:45, 2 a.m. So next, Alberto says that the TMZ cameraman, Jacob Castellan, put the camera within a half an inch from his face, and that he gently asked my nephew to please talk to him. where TMZ then responded, I can do whatever the F I want. And then he says that Sean Driz said, please stop. To which TMZ responded, F you, I'll do it anyways. Then Alberto says he saw a few people standing on the corner of West Mountain, La Cienega. That's the cross street that the nice guy is on. My attorney asked, okay, can you identify who those people were? He says, yes. And then he suddenly says, no, I saw no one there actually. Okay, so now we get to the incident. And Alberto says that Anne, me, appeared out of nowhere and choked him from behind. And that he merely just stretched his arms, and that's how I got hit. Next, Alberto said that he saw Maurice bleeding profusely from the nose and the eyes, which is interesting because we have them on camera for the next 5-10 minutes and then slowly, clearly walking under the camera, surveillance cameras, and no blood, no scratches, not even torn clothing. Next, Alberto says that he saw me and I was standing and totally fine and not bleeding. So all this happened and then I was just standing there Then, while all this is happening, it's a whole melee, okay? And he says, and even though at this point I'm unconscious, people think I'm not alive at this point, I'm on the ground. He said that the manager came out and that they had a 2-minute discussion standing there talking, which didn't happen. This is more perjury. And he says at this point, as he's having a conversation with the manager, my brother came out of nowhere and just hit him. So the manager also said, yeah, that didn't happen. And then Alberto says, and it was because of that, he just followed my brother to investigate. He's saying this because in the video, which I can't post because it's not going to work with TikTok community guidelines because it's so violent, but you can see their group closing in on Matt and pushing him into the corner to attack. Alberto said, and I quote, he only wanted to retaliate in his heart. So he then says that he begged the manager to call 911 on yourself, and then you fled the scene before the cops came? Okay. Alberto then says that his phone was lost during this melee, and that 2 months later it was found in the street. I'm going to come back to that. He then says that Alex Derville was not present, which we know he was. Right after he says that, he's shown the video of the attack, and he IDs Alex Derville in the video. Alberto also watches the entire video, which is mostly starring him and his family, and says that he can't identify himself in it. And I'm going to continue this to another part to finish the deposition of Alberto Driz. Thanks, guys. Part 40 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. This is the continuance of Part 38, which is Alberto Driz's 2018 deposition. So next in the deposition, Alberto has shown pictures of my injuries. Now, I posted them one time, like a month ago or something, and TikTok took them down because they were a little too gory, I'm guessing. But if you just Google my name, excuse me, with injury, it's like halfway down the page and you can see them. There's 4 or 5 main pictures, or you can check my IG. So he's shown the pictures of my injuries, and again, traumatic brain injury. It looks like there's a softball connected to my head. My jaw is, quadruple the size. I have blood. It's not good. You can tell I'm severely injured. He looks at my injury photo, and Alberto says, "No, I don't see injuries. All I see is something on her forehead and a red scratch." Now, to bring you back, immediately after the incident happened in 2015, the defendants all hopped in cars and they fled to Sean Drizz's apartment. And we found out that there were confessions being made left and right as they talked about what they had just done, what had just happened. And we found out that Alberto was overheard saying that he did hit me. And he described it as, like I turned around and bang, got her type of thing. But he used the word bang. When he was asked about it, he says, Alberto, he says, I don't use words like bang, said the guy who just got caught 8 months earlier with a loaded, stolen, chambered pew-pew. Okay, ready for this next part? So, a photo six-pack is what police will bring out as photos to show people, like us, for example, like, do you recognize anybody from this group? And it's usually people's driver's license that they have in the police computer system, and they're called a photo six-pack. And they showed these pictures to Alberto. There's Alberto with his daughter, Annabella Nicole Driz. And he looks at them and he's looking at these photos and he says, "Nope, none of these are me. These are pictures of Maurice." So it's like he's pinning the attacks on his own twin brother at this point. These are really good guys. And then he says that he can't tell him and his own brother apart. So Alberto then says that he never sought medical attention or called the police afterwards, and he admitted to pleading no contest to the felony charges. Alberto then says that Alex Derville's girlfriend at the time, Alyssa Arnold, was a witness to the beginning of the fight and the whole thing. She's on video. She was never subpoenaed or had to give a statement to the police. Like, I know a lot of people tried to make themselves hard to find, but there's a lot of questions that arise from all of this. Then Alberto tries another narrative. Like, this is like the 9 billionth one. But he says that he was sucker punched by a sprinting mystery man while he was speaking to the manager. So first it was, my brother did it. Now it's a sprinting mystery man. So what they tried to say was that there was a whole other group of people. So there's their group, there's our group, there's the nice guy staff, and then there's another group of like mystery people that was just attacking everyone, attacking them, attacking us. No, perjury. Oh, and by the way, so we're going to get back to the cell phone that he said he lost. And the thing is, we don't need a physical cell phone to get texts and calls and all that stuff. I called the phone companies to find out so I could tell my attorneys, like, hey, it doesn't matter if they deleted them. It doesn't matter if they don't even have the phone. I called up AT&T, I called up Sprint, I called up Verizon, and I asked everybody, and they all said, oh, if you have a subpoena for a court case, we will hand anything over that you want from that person's phone up to 10 years. So this was just over 9 years ago. So I've got until April of next year to get these phone records and work on that. So any advice on how to do that and everything, and I'm open to. So anyways, so back to the phone. So Alberto says that 2 months after this incident happened, somebody called him on his new phone because he lost his phone, and they demanded $500 for the old phone back. And then he was asked, like, think about that. How would they know it's your phone? How did they get your new cell phone number? What is going on? And he was like, oh, I don't know. Like, make it make sense. Then the self-proclaimed non-drinker Alberto Driz says, I had champagne that night too. So, okay, so now we're at the very tail end of my notes for this deposition. My attorney at this part was not in the room, and he re-enters the room, and Alberto's face lights up, and he says, "You're back, my best friend." So super creepy stuff. Thanks for following along, guys. Any tips and comments, I'll try to read them all and comment on them all. Thanks so much, you guys. Part 41 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. In this part, I'm going to cover the 2018 deposition of a very close friend of Sean Driz and Christina Schwarzenegger named Alyssa Arnold. She was present that night with the party, was dating one of the men I've spoken about in detail, Alex Derville, and she witnessed everything. I'd also like to point out that Alyssa was able to fly under the radar and not be questioned by the police, not be subpoenaed for a deposition, even though she was a star witness. I only found this out after I bought all the transcripts and the depositions of all the other witnesses, maybe 3 years later, 2018-ish, and saw that she was on the footage of the security footage of the attempted unalivings, and her name was brought up. So I saw that, and I demanded she be subpoenaed, which she was. So this is what we're going to do. So Alyssa's deposition was on May 10th, 2018. And in the beginning of the deposition, we found out immediately that, number one, she had a major attitude about having to give a statement being a star witness to multiple attempted unalivings. And she just was really ticked off about that, which was interesting. Says a lot about her as a person and her character. And we also found out that her ex-boyfriend, she dated Alex Derville from like 2013 to 2017. So like a couple years before the assault and a couple years after she watched him be in that group during the attempted unalivings, and she stayed with him. But she had broken up with him about a year before this deposition. But she did mention that she spoke to Alex the day before and when she got the subpoena for this deposition, and he provided her counsel. Remember, he turned into an attorney with his own law firm called RD Law Firm in Los Angeles. So the deposition starts off and she says, "I was pissed that I had to be here." Yeah, well, we were pissed that we almost lost our lives, but boo-hoo. So then the attorneys ask Alyssa, "Okay, who else did you talk to about this deposition today besides Alex Derville?" And she says, "My roommate, Brianna Burgess, Maggie Whitney," we're gonna get to her, "and her friend, Brooke Raskoff." Next, Alyssa says, "I was there that night, and it was 3 years ago, and I don't know why I'm being called here, really." Probably because you were there that night. Like, what? After this statement, they play the video of the assaults, and she easily identifies herself standing in the midst of the chaos. And I'm going to show a couple screenshots, not the video, but a couple screenshots. So down here, that's where my brother's body is, and there's multiple men attacking him. They're all from the same birthday group of the Drizzes, and they're either attacking him or they're just standing there watching. This is a security guard who was useless. He was from the luxury lofts next door. He literally saw the assaults happening and ran. Great job. And then down here in the white jacket and black pants, that's Alyssa watching, and she's walking towards the assaults. Here's another frame where the assaults are happening right in that corner. You can see those men standing over a body. And that in the white jacket and the black pants standing 2-3 feet away, watching, craning her neck so that she can see with nothing in between. She's watching, and she's wondering why she got called in to testify. So I'm just gonna leave this up here and just get through the rest of the details. So she then tells the attorneys during the deposition that she went to University of Pennsylvania for her freshman year. She graduated from USC. A lot of these guys went to USC with a bachelor's in communication. Didn't see that coming. And at the time of this deposition in 2018, she was currently at UCLA for an architecture program. So next, Alyssa is asked what her relationship is with Sean Drizz. And remember, this is 3 years after the assaults, 3 years of information being given to everybody about what happened that night. So nobody can play dumb. When asked about her relationship, she says, "Friendly to this day, we run in the same social circles." When was the last time you spoke to Sean? Last Saturday at Coachella. Why did she speak to him? Oh, I said hello to his girlfriend, Christina Schwarzenegger. Now, quick question, who paid for his tickets at Coachella? Most likely Christina, his sugar mama. Tickets there, especially VIP and artist passes, because you know these people don't go general admission, they start in the thousands, and that's not even including water and lodging. Expensive, all that money going to the assailants and not the victims. She was then asked, what was the first part that you saw of the fight? Her response, just, I remember seeing a scuffle of some sort, just minimizing it, just awesome, that's great, that's respectful to the victims. Alyssa Arnold then says that she doesn't remember anything because she was drinking heavily, and that she left because her Uber came, so she didn't really see a lot of it. The thing is, we have her on video there for the entirety of the attempted unalivings of my brother and the assaults that were happening to the other plaintiff and the nice guy staff that were trying to intervene on our behalf. The attorneys asked her, so who was in the Uber with you when you left? And she says, I don't believe I was in the Uber with Sean Driz, but I don't know. I don't remember. You know what that means. Then Alyssa is asked, how many times have you talked to Sean Driz since the incident? She says 15 times, most of them in person. Maybe he asked me to go to the farmer's market a year ago via text to get heirloom tomatoes, perhaps? She's then asked what were the reasons why she saw him those 15 times since the assault. And she says his girlfriend, Christina Schwarzenegger, is friends with one of my friends. And here's a quick video of Alyssa being her delightful self during the deposition.
Assuming it was discussed. I don't know specifics. I don't remember what was said. It was 3 years ago. Heavily drinking. If we could just speed along. I'm missing work for this, so I don't want to keep repeating.
So next, Alyssa starts naming off people that she was meeting there at the Nice Guy that night. The Drizzes, William Jolson, blah, blah, blah. And then she names a guy who's been mentioned just briefly in one of my previous parts, named Jared Moreno. Sorry for the super dark picture, it's all I could find. But Jared Moreno, never subpoenaed, never deposed, and he was one of the people in the group. And there's one thing I want to make clear that all of us victims agreed on, and we've said from the get-go, since the first time we walked into the LAPD, all the way 7 years later into the civil trial, that only a small portion of the large group that was actually attacking people were arrested and named. So that's all I'm going to say. Alyssa then said that at the time of the deposition, she was working for an interior design firm called Timothy Corrigan, Inc. She's then asked if she saw a man lying on the ground. I don't recall at any point seeing that. That would be a screenshot from the video of her looking at a man lying on the ground being beaten by her friends. Then she's asked about me. The attorney says at a later date you learned that a woman had been the victim of a beating outside the Nice Guy. Alyssa says someone heard a woman had been involved, but not the subject of a beating. Yeah. She then repeats that statement 2-3 more times and says, a woman was involved, almost as if it's victim blaming, almost as if I wasn't attacked, that I just was part of something. She then goes on to talk about Christina Schwarzenegger and how she found out about everything, even though she was there, that she found out about everything through that social circle. And lastly, her friend Maggie Whitney is brought up again. The attorney says, you referred to Maggie Whitney, but your testimony was that she was possibly present or not. She says, correct. I may have told her to come. You know what that means. Ugh, these people. Okay, thanks everybody. That's about all I can take of Alyssa Arnold today. I could give some more of her deposition, but I might bring that up in a later date. Thank you, and thanks for being so patient while I took a break this last week.